Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome once again. And for today's Bhagavatam class, I will very humbly request you to offer me permission that I will be actually speaking on His Divine Grace, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, since today is his disappearance day. And so, personally, on appearance days and disappearance days of our previous acharyas, I often struggle to have the time to really deeply meditate on, reflect on, and really offer my prayers and seek their blessings on such days. And so, in honor of the disappearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur today, I'm hoping that this time together can be a space that we can co-create, which can really be to have that time to collectively reflect, pray, and hear together. And so a few years ago, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu was glorifying Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And personally, for me, Vaisheshika Prabhu is a hero. Really, there's no other word I can use to describe him. And he's a great lover of Thakur Bhaktivinoda. And he said something that really, really struck me in his presentation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And that is, he was speaking, it was just a short sutra. This is something that Vaisheshika Prabhu often coins. And he said, it's amazing how consciousness is carried by sound vibration. And I'll repeat that one more time. You can just allow it to sink in. How consciousness is carried by sound vibration. And I was reflecting on this and I was thinking that in chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually says that Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priyam hitam chaya swadhyaya abhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. That austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting the Vedic literature. And I was thinking personally just how much I struggle with that. But then, along with that, I was thinking that in the case of the pure devotees, the previous acharyas, and the sincere practitioners of bhakti, that this little sutra, that consciousness is carried by sound vibration, really holds true because, as we'll kind of explore in one of the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the essence of the Vaishnav's heart and their mood in serving Krishna can really be accessed through hearing their words, reading their writings, and even singing the different poetical songs that they've composed. And in that vein, with respect to how consciousness is carried by sound vibration, I recently heard a pastime. I believe it was Indradumna Maharaj who spoke of this, and he was speaking of a guru, and I believe that it's Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And Gaur Govinda Maharaj at a time was traveling with an English-speaking disciple, and they had been traveling for quite some time, and the disciple was feeling extremely tired, and they were attending a program, and Gaur Govinda Maharaj was speaking in Hindi, and this disciple wasn't fluent with Hindi. And with all of the recent travel and so many things, so many responsibilities that were on him, he ended up falling asleep during the class. And he awoke to his guru chastising him for falling asleep. And I don't recall if he actually mentioned this to his guru, but his guru essentially read his heart and he said, I know you're probably thinking that I'm speaking in Hindi and so you can't understand, but recognize this, that the power of transcendental sound vibration is such that that vibration, whether you understand it or not, will still have an effect on the heart. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur is such an incredible acharya. There's just, we have such little time almost. It feels like that pastime of the sparrow who's trying to just take a little bit of water from the ocean to go and and deposit it elsewhere, because the glories of Bhaktivinoda Thakur are just too innumerable to discuss. However, one of the biggest effects that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has had on my life is his beautiful, beautiful bhajans. And I first became exposed to his bhajans through my spiritual master, and um, His Holiness Naranjana Swami. And Naranjana Swami, at one point in time, for a few years, wherever he traveled, all he would do is he had a compilation of different songs, and predominant number of those songs were of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he would travel, and instead of a class, he would just sing song upon song upon song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And that left such an impression on my heart, because these songs were just so beautiful. And so today, I would love for us to explore one of these songs. And I'll save the reveal for just a few minutes, but before that, I'll just give a little bit of background into these different songs that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written in such a poetical manner, and when he did so, and a little bit more of the mood behind it. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written numerous songs, and the two predominant, although there are many, you could say compilations, are that of Sharanagati and Gitavali. And so this song we'll be exploring today is from Sharanagati. And within that body of poetical compositions, it consists of 50 songs, and it was written in 1893. And the mood of Sharanagati, as you may already know, Sharanagati means surrender, um, are comprised of 6 steps in order to have and to achieve this perfect surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his genius, has actually composed different songs that fall into these 6 steps. And so these 6 steps are Dainya, or humility, Atmanivedana, a dedication of oneself to the Lord, Goptritve Varana, accepting the Lord as one's only master, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishvasa Palana, faith that Lord Krishna is the sure protector, Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyera Svikara, accepting favorable habits and practices towards devotional service, and Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjanangikara, which is rejecting unfavorable habits and practices towards devotional service. And so what we'll do is we'll sing a song that is in the section of Bhakti Anukula Matra Karyera Svikara, that is accepting favorable habits and practices. And this is one of my all-time favorite songs. It's known as Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu. And so I'll request that Naina Manjari, if you wouldn't mind, if you could please post the lyrics up on the screen.
Yes.
And ideally, of course, we could do this call and response, but Zoom can sometimes get a little wonky. And so if you don't mind, I'll sing, and you can please also sing along in your respective homes. It's such a beautiful song. And so we'll just wait as this comes up. And so as it's coming up, my request is, as I said, please sing along as the lyrics come up on the screen. But if for any reason you're feeling that shy, or you'd prefer to hear for this morning, no problem. What I'd like you to do either way is please really, you can even just close your eyes and just experience what the sound vibration, forget my voice. I mean, this is the heart of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that we're about to really experience. And we'll go through the translation of this song, but even before that, even without knowing any of the English translation, just try to take in and see what experience you are having, what emotions might even come to mind or come to heart while you hear this beautiful composition of Thakur Bhaktivinoda. Okay. And so I'll sing this. Like I said, if you'd like to sing along, please do. And from there we'll really try to unpack this beautiful bhajan. Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Bhakta Seva Paramasiti Premalati Kara Mula Madhavati Bhakati Janani Jatane Palana Kori Krishna Bhasati Bholi Paramadhare Bari Gauramari Sabasane Korola Brahmana Range Se Sabastana Heribo Ami Pranai Bhakata Sange Mridangavadya Shunite Mana Abasara Sadayache Gauravihita Kirtana Shuni Ananda Hridaya Nache Jugala Murti Dekhiya Mora Paramananda Hoya Prasad Seva Karite Hoya Sakala Prapcha Jaya Yedina Grihete Bhajana Deki Grihete Goloka Bhaya Charana Siddhu Dekhiya Ganga Sukha Nasima Paya Tulasi Dekhiya Judaya Prana Madhava Toshani Jani Gaura Priya Shaka Sevane Jivana Sartakamani Bhakati Vinoda Krishna Bhajane Anukula Payayaha Prati Divase Paramasuke Svikara Koroye Taha Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Bhakta Seva Paramasiddhi Premalati Kara Mula. Thank you, Naina Manjari. You can, just before you put the translation up, maybe you can put it back to the lyrics. And before we go into that, I would love to just invite the devotees on the line, anybody who would like to, we'll try to make this as interactive as possible. What did you experience, even in hearing some of these beautiful Sanskrit words? What did you experience in hearing this beautiful bhajan? And you can just feel free to unmute yourself.
Haribol.
Hari Hari Bol.
I'm every morning when I listen to this class, I teach at 8 o'clock asana. So I'm always, doing my practice while I'm listening to the class. So it was really very beautiful to have my practice informed by, I would like glance up and look at the words, but it was mostly hearing because I have to be practicing, just to feel my practice infused with the sound vibration. It was just very, very, very moving. And I could just feel it vibrating through my whole body. And hopefully I'll be able to transmit that to my students that I'll teach right after this. So thank you.
Oh, praying. How beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It's Andrea. Athena took the words right out of my mouth. It felt like Krishna was doing a lullaby for me, and I was both being lulled to sleep by Krishna, but also that I had like a little baby Krishna that I was lulling to sleep. And it was absolutely so sweet. Like my heart was just overwhelmed with just like that. I don't have words, just that sensation.
Wow, so beautiful. Thank you. The power of the previous acharyas, and I've heard this many times, that just within the body of different bhajans and songs of the previous acharyas contain everything, all the knowledge that we need in order to understand our relationship with Krishna. And this is the glory of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, I want to share.
Please, Angelica.
I feel that my heart was kind of like enchanted and melted. And I also feel like because it's raining outside, it's almost just like, it's like the perfect sound to hear as the rain is just falling so heavily outside of the window. So yeah, it just feels like you just enchanted my whole room, and it's almost this like magical spaceship now. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. The consciousness of Bhaktivinoda Thakur is so powerful, that whatever mode or whatever thoughts we may have potentially have come into this assembly can just be shifted immediately. Such is the power of sound vibrations. So thank you. And we'll take one more if anybody would like to say anything or share in terms of what you experienced, in terms of perhaps even your own consciousness shift or the consciousness of this beautiful bhajan. Okay. Peace. Brajarani. Beautiful. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so we'll now move to the translation of this beautiful bhajan. And as we go through each of the verses, what we'll do, relief. That's a that's a great adjective. Beautiful description, Rukmini. It's definitely one that I experience when I hear this bhajan specifically, relief. And we'll see why. We'll also see that there are different moods in these 6 steps to surrender. And personally, for me, this bhajan, what it evokes joy. And that's because as we go through the translation, we'll see all of these different practices that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is offering to us here. All are so uplifting. And Thakur Bhaktivinoda has, as I mentioned, different moods, and so many of them are within this mood of danya, or humility. And it can be very, sometimes it can be difficult to access, but this bhajan specifically, and within this mood, we can actually experience what are the glories of practicing devotional service. And there's one line here, and I'll speak it out. It's in verse 4 at the end of the verse. It says, Ananda Hridaya Nache, that my heart is dancing, my heart is bursting in ecstasy. And that's in so many ways the mood of this bhajan. And so we'll go through the translation, and as we go through each of the verses, I would really love for devotees to please feel free to unmute yourself, or if you would like to even put a note in the chat, we'll read it out loud if you would prefer. And what I would like you to do is, as we read the translation of the different verses, if a particular verse comes to mind from any of the other reading or hearing that you have been doing, or a personal experience you've had of engaging in this particular form of devotional service comes to mind, please feel free to share. That, I think, is really so much the mood and heart of being able to go deeper and hopefully to honor Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that we're not just singing this song and it feels nice, but to actually dive into the words and the purport and the import of what the Thakur is offering to us. And so we'll start off with, of course, the first verse. And so here we hear that the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotees, enthusiastic devotional service to the pure devotees of the highest order, are the roots of the creeper of devotion. And so with that, one verse that came to mind for me, very appropriate since this is a Bhagavatam class, that reminds me of the importance and to, as Vaisheshika Prabhu often says, will submit evidence to supporting what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is offering to us here. And one piece of evidence we can put in is, even at the beginning of Bhagavatam classes, we hear this verse, Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. And so if we look at the translation of that verse, what it says is, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. And so would anybody else also like to either offer another verse that reminds them of this, to support this verse here, or to offer an experience? Oh, thank you, Nayana Manjari. This way others can also see the translation fully. Okay, so if not for that verse, we'll continue on, and please feel free. I'll offer some verses that really spoke to my heart in support of these different stanzas. And if anything comes to mind for any of you, please just feel free to unmute yourself, or you can also raise your hand or put it in the chat. And so moving to the second verse, right, or the second stanza. The holy days, like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, are the mother of devotion for those devotees who respect them. Let the holy places of Krishna's pastimes be my places of worship, and bless me. And so personally for me, when I think of holy days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, the verse that comes to mind that I really need to meditate upon is Vacho Vegan, Manasa Krodha Vegan, the first verse of the Nectar of Instruction, because typically my mind, not just my mind is always out of control, but my tongue is out of control. And especially on Ekadashi, I can often not necessarily remember that this is a day that's a mother of devotion, but rather it's a day where I can tend to feel the pullings of my mind really working at me, since I typically want to eat grains on that day. And so coming back to this bhajan is helpful, because it's a beautiful reminder that this is these days, Ekadashi, Janmashtami, and all of the different days of celebration, even today, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day, also Gadadhar Pandit's disappearance day, where it's fasting till noon, are days that can offer greater devotion to aspiring practitioners. But the caveat here, and the important piece to remember, is for those devotees who respect them. And it's a good lesson or takeaway personally for me, that when I complain, or whenever I can feel a little bit agitated that I can't do what my mind is pulling me to do, that the only way to truly access the gifts of such days are to actually respect that there is a reason. And that reason is that these days actually allow for greater time to hear and chant and read, instead of focusing on the tongue. And so that's definitely one verse that comes to mind to support this one, Vacho Vegan, Manasakroda Vegan. And then the second part of this, let the holy places of Krishna's pastimes be my places of worship, and bless me. And so with that, I would love to read a really beautiful description from Sri Bhakti Ratnakar, and this is spoken by Srila Narahari Chakravarti Thakur, and he's speaking about his desire of wanting to be in these holy places, and to allow these places to be his, where he can worship. And so, and I quote, "Shall I, a worthless person, ever again see the deities of Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Radha Vinod, Radha Mohan, and Radha Damodar? Will Prabhu Sri Gopal Bhatta ever bring me back to Vrindavan, or give me the opportunity to serve his lotus feet again? Shall Lokanath Goswami, the incarnation of kindness, bestow his grace upon me again? Catching hold of the hair of the sinner, will the gracious Bhugarbha Goswami ever bring me back again? Will Raghunath Das Goswami, the embodiment of kindness, ever again fulfill my desires? Srila Jiva Goswami is the light of the poor and the unfortunate people. Will I ever see his feet again? O associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will you ever again bring such an unfortunate soul as me to Vrindavan, and allow me to enjoy your company?" And when I first was reading this verse, this prayer, really, this revealing of the heart of Srila Narahari Chakravarti Thakur, I was thinking of how deeply grateful each of us can be who have had opportunities to travel to the pastime places of Krishna, and how the first line of the song and the second coincide together, as Narahari Chakravarti Thakur is speaking to, that it's not just visiting the holy places of Krishna's pastimes, but it's the company of the pure devotees, the company of the sincere devotees, that truly allow for the mood of those places to really grow and develop within our hearts. And so that's a little bit on the second verse of the song. And so we'll try to go through as many as possible. And again, if anybody has any others that are coming to mind, any verses. Okay, beautiful, Brajarani. Nectar of Instruction, verse 9. Would you like to bless us with your sweet voice and read to us that verse?
Hi,
Okay.
Krishna.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Actually, I can have a face too. It says, the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura Puri is a transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasalila pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radhakund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokul, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radhakund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill?
Ooh, Haribol. Wow, as you were reading, I could feel a chill going through me. It's such an appropriate verse. Thank you. Thank you. It couldn't be a better piece of evidence to submit, as Vaisheshika Prabhu might say. So thank you for helping us remember that. And the reason why I'm bringing forth these verses and also encouraging all of us to think of those experiences we've had in performing these or being allowed to enter into these practices of devotional service is that it's so easy for the material mind to take these for granted. And because of that, we may have an experience, or we may go on a yatra, or we may have the opportunity to associate with a great devotee, and it's just forgotten so quickly. It's forgotten so quickly. And so by churning and remembering other verses that speak to these practices, it can hopefully help for our own hearts to become softer, and for those experiences that we do have in engaging in these practices to go much deeper, so that we won't forget and that we will really cherish them. And so Jamuna Jaya had also said, this year's Rath Yatra was so joyous after not having it. It was definitely a holy day that filled me with devotion. I had the exact same experience. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. All right. And so I am thinking that just based on time, and I would love for all of us to do a short exercise towards the end. We will probably go through the translations of perhaps verses 3 and 4, if even 3 and 4, and I would beg that you please go ahead and read the rest on your own. Yes, Jamuna Jaya, Rupa Goswami saying, do not go to the banks of the Yamuna. That's right. So if you want to stay in your material consciousness, do not go to the holy places of Krishna's pastimes. That's right. Yes. Okay, so moving to verse 3. May I always visit all the holy places associated with the Leela of Lord Chaitanya and his devotees. And so in this particular case, I actually turned to Bhaktivinoda Thakur again. And this is from his beautiful Sri Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. And there's a beautiful verse right within the Mangalacharan, just a few verses into the first chapter. And it goes, Jaya Navadvipa Dhamma Sarva Dharmasar, Jaya Navadvipa Vasi Gaura Parivar. And the translation goes, all glories to Navadvip Dham, the essence of all holy abodes. All glories to the inhabitants of Navadvip, the family of Sri Gaura. How beautiful is that? All obeisances to the Dham and to the inhabitants of the Dham. And what a beautiful, I thought this really melted my heart, that the inhabitants of Navadvip are the family of Sri Gaura, the family of Sri Gaura. And the last one, I will actually skip a couple of verses, and I will move to verse 7, just because this speaks about a particular prasadam that is favored by Lord Chaitanya, and it's just so beautiful. And so the translation to the 7th verse goes, by seeing the Tulsi tree, my heart feels joy, and Lord Madhava, Krishna, is also satisfied. And when I eat the prasad favored by Lord Chaitanya, it is a new life's experience. And here it says, Lord Chaitanya was very fond of a green vegetable preparation called shak. And there's another song that tells of its amazing effects. And so the other song is also composed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And that song is found in, I believe, Gitavali, that's right. And it's in the song known as Ek Din Shanti Pure. And so this is these few phrases you may recognize. A few people will chant this along with saying the prasadam prayers, but I would really love for you to focus on the translation. And so the Bengali goes, He no shak asvadane, Krishna prema aise mane, se preme koro asvadan, jara bhuri buddhi parihari, prasada bhojana kori, hari hari bolo sarvajan. And so the translation is, oh brothers, one day at Shantipur in Sri Advaita's house, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda were seated at prasad. When Lord Chaitanya tasted the green vegetables, he said, my devotees, this shak is so delicious. Lord Krishna has definitely tasted it. At the taste of such shak as this, love of Krishna arises in the heart. And in such love of God, you should take this prasad. Giving up all materialistic conceptions and taking the Lord's prasad. All of you just chant Hari Hari. So a beautiful experience of what honoring and eating prasadam should be like. It can be so easy to normalize prasadam in a way that we just kind of eat because we need to eat and we're distracted. That's typically what ends up for me. But instead, if we can actually deeply contemplate that the Lord has actually enjoyed this, and on such days, perhaps like Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day, and definitely on days of Lord Nityananda's appearance day and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day, if we can try to prepare those items that the Lord has specifically spoken about, like shak, which is a green leafy preparation that can be made with spinach. And so with that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur concludes, whoever attains the enthusiasm for these devotional practices will be supremely blissful wherever he may be. And so my apologies, I wanted to go through all of the different verses, but even with the ones that we were able to go through, speaking to the devotees, associating with the devotees, the pure devotees, serving them, the holy days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, Krishna's pastime places, Lord Chaitanya's pastime places, and then honoring prasadam. What I would like for us to do is in the next few minutes, if you can find a piece of paper, or you can use your phone, or you can also type on your computer. And what I would like for us to do is to compose a request or prayer to Bhaktivinoda Thakur as to how we can attain greater enthusiasm for these devotional practices, or how we can go deeper into these devotional practices. So you can choose all of them, you can choose one of them. And so if you can, please, we'll take the next few minutes and we can all carve out this time collectively to pray to Thakur Bhaktivinoda on this day of his divine disappearance. If anybody would like to share their, whether their prayer or request, or even perhaps just inspire us by saying what devotional practice they would like to focus on or develop greater enthusiasm for or go deeper in, you can please feel free to do so, whether it's in the chat or whether you would like to unmute yourself and share with us locally. And I'm happy to go first. I'll continue writing. And I hope that all of you will, that this is just a beginning to just even think about, bring our awareness, bring our consciousness to that of seeking guidance, seeking strength from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so personally for me, one of the, I mean, I need help on all of them, but what came to mind initially was to ask for blessings to deepen my own awareness and respect for holy days like Ekadashi and festival days, just because it's so easy, especially when they come one upon the other, to just feel like, why is this happening to me? But actually these are incredible opportunities to really access the mother of devotion, to access Bhakti Devi. And so if anybody else would like to share, like I said in the chat, or unmute themselves, please feel free to do so. And if not, I would also just humbly beg to please keep this with you during the day. Please keep your requests. Please keep your prayer with you. Okay, we have a few in the chat, and so I'll read these out. Angelica wrote, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, please allow me to control my senses so that they can run only in the direction of the Lord and his devotees. Through your mercy, all of my materially contaminated desires can be purified. Let all else be bland and distasteful so that I only cherish what is favorable to my spiritual well-being. What is so incredible in hearing the petitions of the other devotees is that it only serves to inspire us so that we can also be so sincere. So thank you, Angelica. And then Brajarani wrote, when serving the deities, to be more present with greater heart, greater sincerity, and to go deeper. Oh, beautiful. We weren't able to go over that verse, but yes, it speaks to, in this bhajan, the Archa Vigraha forms. And so this is such a special and beautiful petition to put forth before Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so with that, we will conclude for today. And so I pray and I request all of you once again, please keep this at the forefront of your consciousness today, as along with holy days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami. Also days such as this, as disappearance days, are an incredible opportunity to tap into the consciousness of the great devotees, of the previous acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and to access that consciousness and to petition to follow in the footsteps of that consciousness. And so with that, thank you all so much. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.